On blast.
And we are live. This is the Wrap It Up on Blast Raps post-game show. As always, my name is Sheldon Alexander, and this episode of Wrap It Up is brought to you by Clean Cuts Barbershop, 2013 Danforth Avenue in the East End of Toronto. Clean Cuts, the multicultural barbers that will always keep you fresh for any and all occasions. So go see Skip and the crew. And as a wise man once said, tell them that I sent ya. Check them out on Instagram at Clean Cuts Toronto or give them a call, 416-917-4833 to book your appointments now. I feel like the Knicks forgot about their appointment for a game tonight. Not that, it probably wouldn't have mattered anyways, but they got whooped. 126-98. Raptors win big at home. Again, my name is Sheldon Alexander. This is the Wrap It Up podcast. I'm joined by my guy Q. What is really, really good? It's not the Knicks. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. The Knicks are a joke.
Yeah.
We were talking about like this, just a weird setup.
Yeah.
Who they had on garbage time, that should have been mostly their starting lineup.
Yeah. And we'll deep dive a little bit into that, but of course we'll welcome you inside the Wrap It Up podcast, which we do live on Twitter after each and every episode at Shell Alexander. We take your comments and questions there, so let us know what you think about the Raps bench, or the trash Knicks roster, or even a little Canada basketball talk. But we'll take all your comments and questions there on Twitter, again, at Shell Alexander, live after each and every Raptors game. Same thing goes for Instagram. We got another feed up there, and that's just another way for you to interact and tune in live with the show. That feed is up at Sheldon Alexander. And as always, just a reminder, if you want to follow along and support the movement that is the Wrap It Up podcast, just follow along to the network, the On Blast podcast. Give us a search, like and subscribe on iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play, YouTube, and Spotify. On Blast podcast. You will get this show, the Ball on Blast. Also, You Killed It. We got a bunch of stuff there on the On Blast network. Just look it up, like and subscribe, tell your friends, all that fun stuff. But as mentioned, this is Wrap It Up, and the Knicks were a wrap. After the first quarter, the Knicks were actually up. This is a weird one because the Raps win big, as mentioned. And let's get the particulars out the way, right?
Yep.
Because there's some bookkeeping to keep track of. The Raps improved to 13-4, solid record.
Yep.
They, as mentioned, won 126-98. They are now 8-0 at home for the first time in franchise history.
It's big.
That's a big deal. They tied a franchise record with 21 made threes in this game. It's big. And they have 33 consecutive home wins against divisional opponents. Also big.
Yeah.
So there was something to come out of this game. 7 players in double digits for the Raps. But the Knicks are just an embarrassment of an organization. No?
Oh, by far.
To get you started, I'm going to read you the Knicks starting lineup for this game. And when I sat down and I saw this, I was like, I knew their signings and all that, but I can't claim to have actually sat down and watched a bunch of Knicks games this year. Yeah. You check in on RJ, see how he's doing, but I didn't really have time to sit down and take in the Knicks, right? Starting lineup, Frank Ntilikina, point guard. Shooting guard, RJ Barrett. Small forward, one of the Morris twins. I don't even care which one, because it doesn't matter. And I stand by that. I say that all the time. Power forward, Julius Randle. Center, Taj Gibson. How on earth does that starting lineup make sense in the NBA at any stage of the NBA era, but much less in 2019?
It doesn't. It's the same thing. Like they missed out on KD and Kyrie, which we know James Dolan did have a chance.
Mm-hmm.
And they went out and signed 4 power forwards.
Yeah.
Why? I don't know.
Makes no sense.
Right? Like, you signed Julius Randle. I think that was a good pickup. Mm-hmm. They needed a power forward. You go get a young power forward that can mix in with your young guys.
Yeah.
Right? So you start RJ. What happened to Kevin Knox?
Kevin Knox gets no minutes anymore.
Right?
He played in garbage time and still only totaled 12 minutes in this game. Like
No sense.
the roster makes no sense. And the reason why I bring this up, there's a method to the madness here. There's a reason why I bring this up because the Knicks have been trash for a very long time. And we know that there were times where they gave up their draft picks, right? But that time's been over. They've had draft picks now for a while. Okay.
Yep.
And you look at their team and you're just thinking, like, this doesn't make any sense. And poor RJ, which we'll get to RJ in a bit. But the main reason I bring that up is because I always want to make this comparison for Raptors fans to understand how lucky you are that you have Masai Ujiri and an organization that just forget about
Knows
where
what
you
they're
draft,
doing.
but just forget about where you draft,
Yep.
right? There are players available in the second round. There are players available just not in the draft at all.
Yep.
And I bring that up, what the other teams do, just to emphasize the fact that you look at the Toronto Raptors and, hey, Pascal Siakam, continue to ride that wave, young man. 31 points in 30 minutes, okay? 12 of 22 shooting, 8 rebounds. Again, Pascal Siakam, a late first-round pick.
Yeah.
So I always stress to bring up just what the other teams are doing, how these teams are still trash despite having top picks, and they just can't figure it out. But you look at Pascal, 31 points. You look at Freddie, he had 15 in this game. Freddie's what? Second round pick? No, undrafted. Fred VanVleet.
Yep.
Then you look at Chris Boucher off the bench. Again, Raps had 7 players in double figures, right? So I started off with Pascal at 31. You had Freddie at 15. You have OG with 13. Then you go to the Raps bench. Chris Boucher, 13. Rondé Hollis-Jefferson, 12. Terrence Davis, another undrafted guy, 15. Malcolm Miller, 13. Like, how is it that the Raptors are not only able to find all these guys that can get buckets, but the Knicks on the flip side, like, how can Kevin Knox be one of the high school All-Americans, go to Kentucky for 1 year, end up on the Knicks, and then you don't even
have a
play?
good rookie season.
A solid rookie.
He had a
Like,
solid.
he was okay.
It's a rookie. I'm not saying he was going to be a rookie of the year, but he had a good rookie season.
And then my guy
It looked like promise.
And then he just doesn't play anymore. How does that make sense? It makes me worried for RJ. It really does. Because it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. But let's stick to the positives here. The positives are that the Toronto Raptors, once again, are just doing work. And this is a game where you look at it and you worry about the trap game because you know that, hey, they got some big boy games coming up on the sched. And you saw what happened against the Hawks, where the Hawks came in, they're on a downturn, but they came in kind of scrappy. The Raps obviously looking ahead to the Sixers game. There's fear maybe the trap game might come in, but the Raps, nah. Take care of business early.
And it started that way, right? It did start that way, but the Knicks are not the Atlanta Hawks.
The Knicks are not the Atlanta Hawks, and the Knicks, there's so many issues because if you don't know by now that Pascal Siakam has been in the lab, and you're in the NBA, you either don't do the research or where's your scouting report? It doesn't make sense. But Pascal Siakam, 5 of 8 from 3 in this game. And my guy's just walking up and burying threes. And I get that you might have watched the NBA Finals where, again, the strategy from Draymond when he was trying to guard him, and then if you go back to the prior series before where they try to stick the center on Pascal and kind of let him shoot, you got to know by now, 16 games into the season, 17 games into the season, Pascal's been in the lab. The man is shooting that 3 with confidence, and he's splashing it. He did everything. He's the one that broke this game open to me. It was Pascal in the bench in the second quarter where Pascal was doing a little bit of everything.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, they don't, like, even if you don't, so maybe they don't watch game tape. Fine. You don't watch SportsCenter?
Yeah.
There's not a podcast that you've been watching.
Hey, we got one. It's called Wrap It Up, man.
You know what I mean? We would have let them know you have to guard the guy at the 3-point line. Like, it's in your division.
Yeah.
You have to know.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
It was really interesting to watch the glow up of Pascal. He made a 31-point night just look easy, right? And the game, the way that the Raptors play in terms of once they turned it on, okay, you shit the bed in the first quarter, right? You come back in the second quarter, you outscore them 37-17 in the second quarter. And it was all defense turned to offense, and they
defense
just
in transition. Yeah,
they ran them out of the gym in the second quarter.
And I think really even the first, because they came out strong in the first, and I just think they just thought. I think they actually lit up.
Yeah, It's the Knicks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It was an ugly, ugly game from in terms of you're watching Knicks play and it's just turnovers everywhere. But the Raps, the thing I love is because you see the continued growth of all these guys and it's at different
It's
levels.
development. It's
But
development, and I think it's an emphasis on development. So even going back to the Kyle DeMar days,
yep,
it was development,
DeMar improved each and every year for sure.
right?
Yeah.
And then you when you see that again, it's the culture of your organization. It trickles down. If your best player
Yep.
is adding something to his game every year, nobody else has an excuse
It's true.
to not do that,
Yeah.
right? And now you're seeing the same thing with Siakam, right? And they seen how Siakam went from literal nobody, just a member of the bench mob, not the main guy in the bench mob, just a member of the bench mob, to then being
The man.
the man as the 27th pick coming out of nowhere. And you're looking around and you go, why can't I do that too? Right? And again, they're all around the same age. So it's not like you're going into the gym by yourself in the summertime. They all go together.
And speaking of that, there you saw a bunch of them at the Raps 905 game.
Yep.
Right? They're all the Raps are there together going to the Raps 905 game. And that's just camaraderie. That's just they're gym rats.
Yeah.
Right? And you talk about the development, how many of them came from the 905 so they understand, how important it is to support the young gunners that are going back and forth, but also what you just said, right? The young guys seeing that these guys are rooting for you. These guys are invested in you. That's big. And that's got to help your confidence as well. If you're Malcolm Miller now, who, has been in this program now for what, 2 years? And you see him tonight come out and you could say whatever it is, it's garbage time, but that's the minutes that are available to you right now as Malcolm Miller.
And it's garbage time, but you're going in there against lottery picks.
Yes.
Right?
Very good point. You're going in and he's going against Knox and Iggy.
Yeah.
And even RJ was still out there.
RJ was
right?
still out there.
So Malcolm Miller comes out. My guy's 4 of 5 from 3. And the thing that I liked about it, because we see the numbers all the time from Malcolm Miller in 905, and his numbers are always solid.
Yep.
But when he gets the opportunities for the big boy team, there's kind of a hesitation still. He's not really comfortable. And you kind of saw it tonight where my guy was just jacking shots and he was just cool, which is good. But also, my guy's still Terrence Davis, man. Terrence Davis's game, I mean, you heard about it, you saw it in Summer League, you saw flashes in preseason. We've seen it now for the first 17 games of the year. But the more and more I see of Terrence Davis, it just gets me excited of like what the next level is. Because he has a mentality of the same thing you're talking about with Freddie and Pascal, that I come from nothing and I'm here to work my ass off and improve every day. But I just love the way that my guy doesn't look shook in the game at all. He's doing everything with a supreme level of confidence.
Yep.
In this game, he finished with 15 points, 3 of 8 from 3. I mean, Terrence Davis, is he your favorite Raptor right now?
He's up there. I still root for Boucher.
Okay.
Just like again, it's a team. It's hard not to root for them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a team full of underdogs, and they just come out there, and they play like even the guys that weren't on the roster last year are coming into the game playing like champions. Right? They're playing like they've been there before. And it's amazing to see. And it again, sorry to bring up the Knicks again, but it makes you wonder what other organizations are doing.
Yeah. Well, people might wonder why every pod, because I know I did it the last pod we had. I know I did it the pod before where I'm bringing up the other teams and the first round, like early first round picks that these teams have, and they're still way behind the Raps. And I do it because, again, can't stress enough the organizational depth of this Toronto Raptors team, but the success top to bottom that you're seeing, you're seeing the glow up on all levels. And let me take some comments right now because the comments are filtering in. People are happy. And I love the fact that Raps fans are so in that they enjoy these games.
Yeah.
Right? Like the fan base is hype. Like the comments are blowing up on both sides. So let me get to comments because people are feeling good tonight. Let's see. First, quite simply, someone just says Wagwan. What up, Shell? What up, Q? What up to Karudo? What up? More comments here. But Siakam is a legit number 2 elite, but he ain't a number 1 to me. I mean, I don't know. It's interesting because it depends on the levels. And hey, as of right now, Pascal is doing nothing to show me that he's not a number 1. Right? Like you could argue he didn't play well in the head-to-head matchup against Giannis, but it's Giannis
Yeah, it's
who's
like
the MVP of the league. And
like if you're saying he's not a number one, like he's not Kawhi, like there's literally
yeah,
5 guys in that category,
yeah. And if I
and
bring it
everybody
to,
else is levels below that, right?
because my thing was I would always have this talk about DeMar, right? And the biggest difference, if you're comparing the two stars, right, or the two different eras of the Raptors team, and this might come down to coaching, so it might be unfair to DeMar, but I think that what Pascal brings on the defensive end and the intangibles, like he does more than just score. Like I know that the scoring is what gets the most attention. Everyone's like, "Oh, you replaced Kawhi's scoring," but even the last game, in terms of the huge defensive play he came up with at the end of the game, that's just as big as the and one that he made
Yeah,
as well. And I think that's the main difference when you talk about can he be a number 1 guy and kind of what I was down on with DeMar and what gets me excited about Pascal is that you can affect the game on both ends of the floor. There's multiple ways for you to make an impact. And seeing Pascal, man, it's scary to me because I don't know what the next level is. Someone brought up in the chat just now, I saw it on Instagram. Someone said 2 years ago Pascal couldn't even shoot,
yeah,
right? And then now you look at it and it's true. 2 years ago my guy couldn't shoot and now he is wetting threes.
yeah.
Like that is just in the lab. That's development. That is, you know, maybe trusting the process should be our slogan in
Yeah.
Toronto and
And I
not
think
the
and I think
Sixers, right?
with Pascal, with this team, I'm gonna say this, like with him and Fred, then you add in Kyle, and he doesn't need to do it 82 games,
Yeah.
right?
True.
He doesn't need to score 30 points 82 games.
Yeah.
Whereas Harden does,
Yeah.
right? So again, it goes so he can have those games where maybe he only scores 15, but what else is he doing? It's 15 and 10. It's 15 and 5 assists. There's steals, there's block shots, there's big defensive plays down the stretch, right? So if Fred is on this game and scoring 25, 30, Pascal still gets involved,
Yeah.
right? Whereas with DeMar, if DeMar wasn't scoring,
He wasn't doing anything.
Toronto was not winning that game
Yeah.
for the most part.
And he
right?
also wasn't doing anything else to help. I
Exactly.
hear what you're saying. Here is a comment I was looking for. DJ Raymond checked in and said 2 years ago, Siakam couldn't hit a free throw to save his life. Now he's dropping hezzy pull-up threes.
Yeah.
That's facts. And the weird part about it is you look at a guy make a development, make a leap like that, and I can't put limits on Pascal's game. I can't.
After,
How?
I mean, after like the strides he made, right? Like from year 2 to year 3, it's just it was ridiculous.
Well, I always go back to the interview that he did during the playoffs last year, and I'm pretty sure it was with Michael Grange, but he said that Kyle Lowry was huge in his development because Kyle went to Dwayne Casey and begged for Dwayne Casey to allow Pascal to dribble the ball up the floor.
Yeah.
Think about that. Pascal Siakam needed Kyle to beg Dwayne Casey to allow him to dribble the ball. And now you're looking at this guy, and my guy's at the free throw line, and they're chanting MVP.
Yeah.
That's insane.
And it's not a, like and it's not a crazy MVP where it's like, okay, you're the best player on our team, or 2 and 12 and you're having a good game and the crowd is just looking for somebody to root for. It's deserved.
It's crazy.
Right?
It's crazy to see the glow up, man. It is absolutely
right.
crazy.
And like I said, like as big of a improvement as he made last year to win Most Improved.
Mm-hmm.
He was still out of control. He was still wild. He was still
Yeah.
and to make an equal equally as big jump, especially coming off a year where you win the championship. Like I said, like these guys should have been drunk and partying all summer, and maybe they were, but during the day they were in the gym,
Mm-hmm.
right? And he's made an equal jump to last year, to where people are legitimately talking about him being in the running for Most Improved Player again,
Yeah.
right? If not the MVP award.
Well, Logan checks in on Twitter, and Logan asks, 2016 redraft, Pascal going one, or you still take Ben? You can't take Ben
You
Simmons
can't
over
take Ben
Pascal
Simmons.
right now, can
You
you?
can't take Ben Simmons
You
number one.
can't.
Ben
You
Simmons
can't
does
take
not
Ben
go
Simmons over
number one.
Pascal Siakam, right?
No, no, and it's funny because I forget
It's so crazy to think about that, right?
I forget who was talking about it and on the radio today, and it was just like if Philadelphia came to you right now and said Ben Simmons for Pascal, Masai's looking at them and said Ben Simmons and who? What else are you giving me?
Exactly.
Right? If I'm
It's
even
true.
going to consider it, who else are you giving me?
It's true.
Right? And if people legitimately were just saying like,
Yeah.
would it be Ben and Embiid for Pascal? You right? And now that might be outlandish, but
Of course. No, I know what you're saying. The
it's
point
a very
remains,
legitimate
yeah.
point. Whereas you're not giving Masai is not giving up Pascal, not even for Ben Simmons right now.
Well, the perfect example is we just talked about the leap that Pascal's made with his jump shot, with being allowed to dribble. On the flip side, this is not a made up story, but the Sixers fans were cheering because Ben Simmons hit his first three of his NBA
In
career.
a preseason game.
No. In the regular season, he hit one like last week.
Yeah.
they
But
gave
I'm
the
saying
standing
the
up.
first time the chair was
Yeah,
in a preseason game.
But it's like, how is that really a thing? That makes no sense, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy. Another comment though: the Knicks are coming for Masai. Watch. Why would Masai leave and go to the Knicks? It'd have to be the biggest bag ever. But the flip side, this is the one thing I'll say: MLSE at this point, I would assume Masai can have whatever bag he wants and he can do whatever he wants, and they don't bother him. The one thing we do know about the Knicks that as long as James Dolan is around, who knows what's happening in that front office, right? Like who knows?
And it doesn't matter. I think it does at that point. It doesn't even matter what GM you put there.
Yeah, yeah,
Nobody wants to play for James Dolan.
yeah. Players don't want to play there. Players don't want to. Well, this was the offseason that showed it, right?
Yep.
Like
Like the guys
all
they
year,
signed, they all signed, and they all signed for like $15 million and 1 year deals, and look at the results.
well, the whole year, we got to remember, all last year the rumor was KD to the Knicks, KD to the Knicks, KD to the Knicks,
Kyrie.
and then they went to the Nets. Nobody ever thought that was a thing.
Nope.
And remember, Sean Marks told everybody he never even talked to KD. There was no meeting with KD to like pitch him and be like, "Hey, do you want to join the Knicks?"
Yeah.
Like they called them. It was like, "Yeah, man, we're coming to the Knicks, me and Kyrie." It's like, wait, what? Make this trade.
Yep.
What? That's insane. Insane. But the Knicks are a dumpster fire, and Masai, it's got to be, at this point, you won a championship in Toronto. Larry Tannenbaum says he considers Masai his son
Yeah.
and knows what Masai wants, and he will give him whatever he wants. That's already on the record, right? From the rumors that happened this past offseason with the Wizards.
Yep.
Right, that Leonsis was trying to offer him like 10 mil a year and like shares or some shit like that. And Tannenbaum was like, nah, I think Masai's good. But you can't leave to go to the Knicks and work for James Dolan. You just can't. No. You can't.
As you can see, for years, it's from Isaiah Thomas to the players that I've run through there. It's not a good career move.
Here's a question for you. So we know that Kyle Lowry's on the way back soon.
Mm-hmm.
We know that Terrence Davis has been playing really well. We know that Norman Powell is still Norman Powell. Compliance department checks in and says, I bet Norm is out of the rotation when Kyle is back. Davis has stolen his minutes. Watch. What do you think, Q? Do you think Terrence Davis has earned minutes over Norman Powell, who, for the record tonight, and it's just one game because Norm's been his normal up and down Norm. Tonight, Norman Powell, 7 points on 2 of 8 shooting. While you
No,
think
I
about
don't.
that,
I don't. I don't.
DVAD checks in on Instagram and says, "Please trade Powell." But go on, Q. What do you think?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think. I mean, there might be a deal out there. I'm not going to say no. He's going to finish the year in Toronto. I would never say that because Masai, like Masai said, if there's a way for them to think they can improve their team, they're going to do it. And if you're going to move a contract, Powell's contract is the one you're probably going to want to move,
Yeah.
right? At the same time, I just think he goes back to the bench. He's
Yeah.
out of the starting lineup. He goes back to the bench. He backs. If they're still going to start Kyle and Fred, Norm is your 2. Terrence Davis is your backup 1,
Yeah.
and it just allows you.
Gives you options.
It gives you options, and it allows you to let. Again, same thing with when Serge comes back with Marc Gasol. It allows you to rest those guys.
Exactly.
Nobody has to play 35,
Which is super important.
right? Maybe if it's a big game against Philly or Milwaukee,
Yeah.
you run with your top players.
Nope,
But
totally
if you're
agree.
playing the Knicks, playing Orlando, you're playing Atlanta, there's no reason for Kyle to play 35 minutes a game.
And the main thing that we've talked about all the time with Norman Powell is a little healthy competition never
Yep.
really hurts Norman Powell. And so as Mikey TV checks in on Instagram and says TD is going to be a star, I think that only helps the internal competition with the Raptors, right? And if Kyle comes back, Kyle's a starter with Fred again, cool. Norm now has to turn back and earn his minutes again because I don't think that it's a position that he was in at the start of the year where it was just a given, hey, you're the 7th man off the bench. I think that's gone because when Serge comes back, Serge is still getting his minutes. So then the 7th guy, am I not turning to Rondé maybe?
Rondé's that guy, I think.
So Norm, I don't know what Norm's doing, but he's not because Rondé's been a consistent double-digit scorer now.
Norm's a streaky player. Let's just
We know that,
right.
yes.
I don't even think it's about inconsistency. I think it just streaks. He's going to give you a good 4 straight games of double digits and dunks, and he's going to hit the 3, and then there's going to be 4 games where the shot's just not falling.
Yeah.
I think as long as he plays some defense, he's still in your
good,
rotation.
for sure.
He just
he
might
gives you
not
some
be that first
size.
guy off the bench.
He gives you some size in the backcourt, too. Not
Exactly.
much, but he gives
Yeah.
you some size in the
Yeah.
backcourt as well. On the flip side, kind of the same, not really, but a little bit of the same thing here as, let's see, what's his name? Juha Jupi. I hope I pronounced that right. Checks in and says, when Ibaka comes back, should we give some of Gasol's minutes to Boucher to keep him fresh through the long season we have ahead?
I think it's the same thing. You have options. So if you're playing Embiid, Gasol gets the major minutes.
Yeah.
Right? If you're playing the Knicks, why not give Boucher a game where he can just go out there and play 30 minutes and Gasol, I don't even think Gasol should have even came in the second half of this game. Right? He could have literally just.
Hold on, though. When did he splash that 3 from like half court?
He did hit.
That was big. That was
Yeah.
when the game was over to
Yeah.
me. I was like, all right, this game's over.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. Like you just have options, and again, if we're going for the repeat, if we're going to try and get back to the NBA Finals, you need Gasol, Kyle, even Fred and Siakam fresher going into the playoffs, just like how we did last year with Kawhi. You want them fresh, right?
It's true.
So, if they can take half a games off, or even load management for Kyle and Mark, of course, why not? Boucher's shown that even in big games, that he's gonna give you that consistency. He's energy off the bench. He's gonna try and block every shot. He's gonna try and grab every rebound.
Yeah.
And he can shoot from the outside. So
It's a good problem to have.
exactly.
13 and 12 tonight for Chris Boucher off the bench. But we were talking earlier about Ben Simmons versus Pascal. K2's Garnett checks in and says, forget about that. Fred Van Fleet over Simmons, which I'm not going to go that far. I second with this follow up that was Ben Simmons is super young though in his defense, which is another part of this whole thing, right? Because Freddie was a 4-year player in college, no?
Right. Yeah.
So there's a bit of a difference and a little more maturity. And, Freddie came into a nice situation where his relationship with Kyle has really been helpful in his career as well, right? Like Kyle has been kind of a big brother to him and helped him along the way. And I think that relationship has really helped Freddie's development as well. Whereas does Ben Simmons have that in Philly?
But also you also got to think what he came in heralded number one pick. Now he's got the bag. Would he even listen to the veteran?
Well,
Would he even want? You know
this
what I mean?
brings up, we were talking about this during the game, and there's an interview that I think you guys should watch. It was Jimmy Butler did it with Yahoo Sports. If you go to their Twitter account, they tweeted it out on Yahoo Sports with Vincent Goodwill. And he asked him, does everyone, you work hard. We know Jimmy Butler works hard. He's always in the gym, 4 a.m., shooting, whatever. And that's basically Jimmy, right?
Yep.
Work hard, Jimmy Butler, always in the gym. And the question was, do you think everyone in Philly was working as hard as you were? And he says, no, like easily.
Yeah.
Jimmy Butler's just like outright. He's like, no. But then he backtracks and he's like, but that's okay. Like everybody's not wired like that. Everybody's not like that. And I've learned that over my years in the league.
Yep.
And so Goodwill, credit to him, because you could tell they have a bit of a relationship, because he goes right back at Jimmy and he's like, wait a second, what do you mean? Like, if you're working hard to get to a championship, shouldn't everybody on your team be also working just as hard to get to the ultimate goal of winning a championship? And Jimmy Butler's response was so interesting to me. He said, well, your assumption is that everybody's goal is to win an NBA championship. And I was so like taken aback by that. Because then, and Goodwill keeps going and he's like, well, what do you mean? What's everybody playing for? He's like, there's tons of reasons why guys are in the NBA. You make a lot of money. You can buy houses. You can buy cars. You can have all these things. There's tons of other reasons. There's fame, tons of other reasons why guys are in the NBA. And it's not to win an NBA championship. And I thought, whoa. And that, I don't know if it's fair for me to characterize it as that's a shot at a couple people.
Yeah.
But I've been saying on this podcast, there's a reason why Jimmy Butler left Philly. And I look at Ben Simmons.
Same reason
and
he left
Embiid,
Minnesota. If you want to get into it.
True. And he looks at these guys. He's like, you guys aren't real. You guys don't want the smoke. And it was just interesting to watch that interview and hear him say that, and then now put that into the context of what we just saw the Raptors do last year.
Yep.
And how important that was to see what they're doing now, because even with the championship, these guys are still hungry for more.
Yeah.
And that's a beautiful thing.
Well, I mean, think of all your jobs, right? You go there in the morning. How many of you really love what you do? And they're trying to be the best at what you do and trying to win Employee of the Month, right?
I like my job when we're not talking about racism in hockey.
Right? Well, that's
a story for another
like, that's
day.
what I'm saying. Like we were having this conversation earlier, where it's like it's across the board in every profession, right? You're going there to get paid. That does not necessarily mean that you love what you do.
Yeah.
And I mean, of course, we're all big fans of basketball. That's why we're here and doing this show right now. But a lot of these guys were just tall and figured, I can right. You can go to college and work hard for 4 years and get a degree and get a good job.
Yeah.
Hopefully get a good job. Or you can play basketball and get millions of dollars and you know what I mean?
Millions a year to play ball. Yeah.
To play basketball. That doesn't mean you love basketball. It just means you found your talent, your skill, and you run with it.
And also there's a whole thing about the culture of what basketball is now from like levels below, right? Like, does winning matter? Like Ben Simmons went to LSU. They didn't even make the tournament.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter. He was still the number 1 overall pick. It wasn't even a detriment to his draft stock that he couldn't even get his NCAA team into the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
Right? Like, think about
it's
that.
ridiculous.
You couldn't even get your team to the tournament.
It's ridiculous.
It's crazy, right? It's crazy to think about.
It's just a different era of basketball, period, right? And it's just not the same. So you can't really expect, especially with the way the NBA has been the last couple of years with the Golden State and the Miami, the Dynasty, those super teams. It'd be crazy to think that everybody across the 30-team league is going into the year thinking, I'm going to win a championship this year. It was impossible for most of these teams, right?
Yeah. No, totally. Totally. I think that there's funny. I was just distracted because there's a solid argument right now going on the Instagram chat about should they have Kyle come off the bench when he comes back. No, no, I'm not entertaining
No.
that. You didn't pay the man 30 whatever mil to come
Yeah.
off the bench. No, he
The whole
starts.
thing is remember it's chemistry.
Yes.
You don't want Kyle. Kyle's a guy who has the potential to come in and ruin the season. You do not want him disgruntled.
Yeah.
That's another reason why they gave him the bag. That they did. He's coming off. He's playing.
Yeah, totally. And Kyle Lowry, again, it's not because I don't believe you can lose your you shouldn't lose your job to injury.
No.
And you got to remember when Kyle was playing, he was playing really well.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like it's not like Kyle was struggling and Freddie was still playing well beside him. So like the team was still clicking with Kyle Lowry starting. But I don't even want to get to that conversation because yeah. K2's Garnett checks in and says, Ben Simmons said himself, basketball isn't his passion. There's another comment in here that said Jimmy Butler is cancer, which I don't know if I agree with that. I just think that, I
So-
mean, he's been proven right in both instances.
Both
no?
instances. Yes,
Right?
exactly.
The T-Wolves are still not good,
Yeah.
right? And we're seeing Embiid and Ben Simmons. Oh, you mentioned this to me earlier. Let's check in on what Joel Embiid happens to be doing tonight against the Sacramento Kings because it's the Sacramento Kings. Let's
Yeah.
check that box score. The Sixers win 97-91. Joel Embiid, 33 points, 16 rebounds. 10 of 19 from the floor. Yay, Joel Embiid.
Yep.
Glad to see you back, big guy. Way to kick it to those 7-10 Sacramento Kings. Good job. Who's Sacramento's big guy?
Rashawn Holmes.
Rashawn Holmes. Oh, you showed him, Joel Embiid.
The same guy who's a practice against Joel Embiid in Philly.
You showed him.
Ridiculous.
Oh, man. I was going to talk a bit about Canada basketball. I think I'm going to save that for, what's the podcast we do tomorrow? Ball on Blast. Wow. My brain is fried. I'm sorry. I'm telling you, this racism and hockey stuff is messing with my brain. And I come home every
that's
day
a
and I'm just like,
whole-
yo, this is hurting my
that's a
head
whole
right
other
now.
show.
Can we stop talking about this? Sorry. But to refocus here, shouts to Canada basketball. And I'll say this much, shouts to Canada basketball, shouts to RJ for announcing that he will for sure play for Team Canada next summer. Same thing goes for the cousins, Nikhil Alexander Walker
Yep.
and
Shai.
Shea Gilgis Alexander. Same thing for
Jamal
Murray, who I think is the big chip, the big domino that you really want to play for this team. And with him and Corey in the backcourt, you know Olenek's going to show up because he always does as long as he's healthy.
Yep.
I like that squad going up against Giannis or not. So huge shouts to Canada basketball and to Nick Nurse, the coach of Team Canada. If there's someone who can stop Giannis.
Boxing one, baby. Let's do it.
Also, did you know Rick Pitino's Greece's coach?
Interesting.
I'm just saying. I can't wait for that tournament. That's going to be super fun. Super, super fun. Boucher, Austin reminds me here, says, Boucher says he'll play Don't Forget. We were talking about, will Boucher make the team? The conversation for another day.
wait,
We got a
we
long
were
time to
talking about
figure
that,
it out.
yeah.
I don't know. We got a long time to figure
That's
it
a
out.
whole Canada basketball ball on blast.
Let's go. Yes, we'll start another pod. Canada basketball on blast coming soon. Coming soon to a headphone near you. But thanks again, guys, for tuning in as the Toronto Raptors beat the New York Knicks 126-98. Again, 126-98 is the whooping that your Toronto Raptors laid on the New York Knicks tonight. Pascal Siakam, high score with 31 points on 12 of 22 shooting for Pascal, but 5 of 8 from 3. Why? Because he's been in the gym.
Yep.
Raptors win to improve to 13-4 on the season, and they are now 8-0 at home for their best start at home in franchise history. 21 threes to tie a franchise record. Again, they've also won 33 consecutive games at home versus divisional opponents. So this was a big boy win for the Toronto Raptors because they take care of business and beat a team that they're supposed to beat. And hey, I like that.
Did it handily.
handily. Took care of business.
Yeah,
Let everybody get some off the bench. Even Malcolm Miller was getting some off the
career
bench.
high.
But I say that with caution because Friday, the Raptors head to Orlando, which, okay, cool. Should beat Orlando, should handle Orlando.
Yep.
But then business is about to pick up. Utah is playing a lot better as of late.
Yep.
Then after Utah, you got Miami, who has been a good team so far in the Eastern Conference.
With Jimmy.
Then you got Houston, and then you got Philly again after that. So a very, very solid run coming up for the Toronto Raptors. And hopefully Kyle should be back for at least the Miami game or the Houston game. Kyle should be back. Serge, we know, is on the way back shortly as well. So the reinforcements should be back as business starts to pick up with a bunch of what I call big boy games in a row. You excited? You fired up?
And we're on the East Coast, so I don't have to be up till midnight watching. Love it. I'll be here for every game.
Let's go. Big things going on for the Toronto Raptors and big things going on the Wrap It Up podcast. Q, where can the people find you to get your takes during this big boy trip for the Raps?
Peoples, thanks again for tuning in. Appreciate it as always. You can hit me up at simply_just_Q. That is on all social media. That is Instagram and Twitter. And then also at DDS Caps. We monitor that one as well. You can hit up myself or Homeboy Foots, who's not here today. All social media as well.
Yes, and my name is Sheldon Alexander. And of course, you are tuning in live on Twitter at Shell Alexander, where you can find us after each and every Toronto Raptors game, doing our Raps post-game show. Take your comments and questions there. Same thing on Instagram. Thank you guys for tuning in on the Instagram feed at Sheldon Alexander. Like at both places, like and subscribe or follow up on both places. Greatly appreciated. And of course, the podcast lives on. Shout to the podcast people listening on SoundCloud. The day ones from SoundCloud. Been rocking with us for a while now. Really appreciate you guys. So if you're on SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play, YouTube, Spotify, which a lot of people have been happy that we added the pod to Spotify. So really appreciate you guys for tuning in there and liking and subscribing there, sharing the love that is the Wrap It Up podcast, where we want to give a home for the Raptors fans to go after each and every game because it's needed. It's needed in this market. We're the defending NBA champions.
Yeah.
Right? We need a consistent post-game show. Isn't that a thing?
Should be.
But anyways, we do what we can, and we want to hear from you, and you guys do such a good job of helping us out and keeping us, giving us more things to talk about after each and every game and your opinions. As someone even checks in saying we should trade Norm for T. Ross. Wow. I'll just let the people in the chat argue that one. But the point remains, really appreciate you guys because I used to pray for times like this to rhyme like this. This is the Wrap It Up on Blast Raps post-game show. As always, unpolished and unapologetic. Until next time, Friday night, we'll see ya. Peace.
On blast.